Once we've defined the data members and the constructor and a method for displaying the data, toString, we need to create some get and set methods to allow us to set and return individual pieces of data from a class object. So I'll put a little comment here saying these are called get and set methods. Let's start out with a get method for returning, say, the last name. So here we're going to write public string, because string is the data type of the return value of the method, and we'll call this get last. All it does is return the last name. Let me scroll that up so you can see it a little bit better. So get last will return the last name only. We'll do one more. Return first. So get methods return pieces of data from a class object. Now let's look at some set methods. Set methods use a special keyword called void, and I'll explain what that means in just a minute. And so here we're simply setting the first name to the argument. So first is equal to fname. We use void because set first is not a value returning method. We're not returning anything from the method, we're using it to set a piece of data. So because it's not returning data, it has to be declared as void. Now you'll notice that the constructor method does not use void, but it's the only non-value returning method that won't be void. So let's do another one here. Like so. So there's set first and set last. Now we probably want to have one more set method called setName that sets all three pieces. Later in the course I'll show you how to create other types of constructors, including what's called a default constructor. Oh, I have LName twice. Let me go fix that before we move on. I'll show you how to create what's called a default constructor, where you set a class object to its default values, which in this case for first, middle, and last would be the empty string. So first equals fname, middle equals mname, and last equals lname. Now this is a good time to mention that in a real program, in a real world application, we would probably write some data validation code in here, making sure that these values weren't empty strings or numbers that were listed as strings, things that would make a name invalid. Now we don't really have time to show you that in this course. That's really not a beginning topic, it's more of an advanced user topic. Just be aware that there are data validation methods that you should be using in real-world programs. And later in the course, when we study classes in more detail, we'll talk about that some. Let's look very quickly at how to use these methods. So the first thing we need to do is create a new name. We'll just make up a silly name here, John Q. Public. Then we'll display it. Then we'll do a set first. Change it like so. Then do another toString, so let's just copy that code. We'll change his last to brown. Do it again. And then we'll do a get first. Let's do it in backward order. Let's do get last plus a comma space plus my name dot get first. So we should see the name and last name, first name order with a comma. So let's compile and run that. And so there we see John Q. Public, and then John Q. Public with John spelled different. Then we changed the last name to Brown. Then we displayed Brown, comma John using get last and get first. So there's a demonstration of how those methods worked. So to summarize, a well-designed class should have a set of get and set methods defined for the class so that the user can work with individual pieces of the class as well as whole parts of it, such as with setName. These are all part of a well-designed class and should be included with every class that you create. Because set and get methods are so common, C# provides a special feature called properties for working with individual pieces of a class, and we're going to look at how properties work in the next lesson.